1 in 5 suffer.
Erase the stigma.
Brain difference is not a crime.
Mental health isn't just your problem.
It's our problem.
And now, Mental Health Mondays with Marla and Dave.
Welcome to Mental Health Mondays.
We are Marla and Dave.
That's right.
And I am particularly Marla. Let me start the show today by saying, as always, that when it comes to Mondays, Mental Health Mondays is kind of like revitalize my Monday. Everybody has a blast on the weekend, and you usually dread Monday. It's like the mundane Monday. But for us, because this topic is really just about mental wellness, and the opportunity to talk about that is really invigorating to us. And let me just briefly, Dave, before we get into our guest for today, which is super special to both of us. We are going to hopefully in the future get a time to reschedule Raz. There were so many technical difficulties in his interview last week. We just don't think it's the best representation for us to continue and to air what we've already aired. So please forgive the schedule interruption. But like we say, when it comes to mental health, every single solitary conversation that we have is worth hearing and having.
I want to remind everybody that Mental Health Mondays is brought to you by Loving Beyond Reason and Mental Health Mondays. Also, we're in partnership with NAMI San Fernando Valley. Go to either one of those websites, Loving Beyond Reason or NAMI San Fernando Valley. That's NAMISFV.org, and donate to Mental Health Mondays. Marla alluded to the fact that our guest today is none other than our son, our only son, DJ Thomas. For better or worse, we have chosen to responsibly share our struggles with mental health as a family in hopes to help erase the stigma surrounding mental illness and to help other families dealing with similar issues to understand that there's always hope for a better tomorrow. DJ is a very talented songwriter, accomplished songwriter. He has many talents. He's multifaceted. We'll be right back with our son, DJ.
Talents.
Help someone who is struggling by supporting the National Alliance on Mental Illness and be a part of the NAMI effect. Hope starts with you.
Hey guys, listen up. Learn something.
Okay, so first let me just introduce the amazing, talented, the son of my... First of all, we were just having a really fun conversation before we actually got on air of whether I'm actually his mother. And I'm telling you, there's a group of stretch marks. I'm not even going to get into it. He came out of my body, and this is my only son, and we welcome him. Welcome to Mental Health Mondays, DJ.
What's happening?
That was very deliberate.
Actually, I want to say something real quick.
We want you to.
Can you even hear me? Can you hear me now?
Everyone can hear you.
Cool. I want to say thank you so much for having me on this show, because life is all about blessings. Life is all about being able to share and impart your blessing upon somebody else that really needs it in their time of need. So at the end of the day, I feel blessed to even have been chosen for this mental health challenge, this mental health trial that God is putting me through.
Come on now.
And at the end of the day, if you actually know in your heart of hearts that God is with you and you're suffering from mental health disabilities, you must understand that it's only a trial. I swear, time heals all things, and that's actually a scientifically proven statement. So if we know scientifically that time heals all things, including trees, plants, grass,
nature.
You understand? So if time heals all things, the trial that you're in will be healed over time regardless. So it's only a temporary trial that you can totally overcome if you keep your faith in the one that matters.
All right, so DJ, I don't know if you have been following the show on a weekly basis, but before we go into the conversation, I'm going to stop and make sure with our producer that everything's fine. but on social network we're still good. Okay, so make sure everybody's being able to view the show. So D, when were you first able to accept the fact that you had a diagnosis
or recognize that there were differences?
You know what? I began this trial because that's what I call it now, a trial. I began this trial around 2015, but then it got serious around 2017 because I feel like God wanted me in a specific trial, and I changed the nature of the trial.
Okay, so Marla, you look like you had something to say.
No, I'm letting you finish your line of thought. And
so that being said,
our thoughts aren't the same.
Talk to us about how you feel about treatment in general and therapy in general.
Perfect. So I feel like treatment is a test of faith because in order to understand that we all have been charged up with God's life, the mere fact that we have life allows you to understand that we've been charged up with God's life. So at the end of the day, if you can trust your level of life in somebody else with a completely different level of life's hands, you will be possibly one of the most faithful people that the world has ever seen. It's just a test of your faith, sweetie.
So let me ask you a question. So my question to you is, because I love you dearly. Matter of fact, I give my life like this for you in a heartbeat. But as you go through your own trials, what are the things? Are there things that actually annoy you that get said and done to you? Like, give us things that make you go, you may not necessarily respond, but triggers.
Yeah, like D said, cringeworthy.
Yeah, cringeworthy. What are the cringeworthy things that people say to you that you're like, get out of here with that?
I feel like the hardest thing for me to deal with throughout the duration of this trial is really just intolerance. I mean, and to be honest with you, intolerance is the beginning of the cancer that society is experiencing. It's all about intolerance.
So,
because
I can definitely agree with that.
Quite frankly, if it weren't for intolerance, what actually would happen is this. We would all want to pick each other up. We would all want to lift each other up. We would all be a family if it weren't for the fact that I'm intolerant of whatever it is that you have or whatever it is that you have going on.
Your perspective.
Yeah. I'm intolerant of whatever it is you have or whatever it is you have going on, and I don't associate with that. Because if we all had the same level of association, if we all had, not level, but if we all had the same association, that's a family, baby.
Well, like Mom and I always say, and for those of you watching, Marla and I always say, one of the things, and like I said at the beginning of the show, our goal is to help to erase the stigma surrounding mental illness, and that is so much our goal that we don't even like to refer to it as mental illness. We prefer it to say brain
differences.
Only because, and even that needs to be changed, because there should be nothing wrong with saying mental illness. That's like saying I got a cold, or I have a fever today, or I broke my arm. The same thing.
But you know what's even better?
Every one of those things need a treatment.
You know what's even better than, what was the term?
Brain difference.
Brain difference. God level trial. That's even.
Okay.
That's so incredibly important to the story.
But understand this though, D.
The story of. How do we put this? The story of life.
I think that's a good thing.
So incredibly important.
I think it's important for your personal trial, but the reason we say brain difference is because, to be honest, it's unfortunate, but it's true that everybody doesn't have the faith in that you have. And so some people don't believe in God at all. But there is a difference that exists that doesn't make you less than.
How could you
worthless.
not believe
Hold on.
in the idea of control?
Hold on. The music is playing, so just, I know you have a lot to say. That's why we slated you in here, baby. You got episodes 1 and 2. We all in this, baby. We all in this thing. We'll be right back with more insightful in conversation with our son, DJ. You cannot afford to miss one word that comes out of this discussion today. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
When Dave and Marla get together, it's hot.
You may not realize it, but these words, often used to describe someone with a mental health condition, can be very harmful. In a country where 1 in 5 people are affected by a mental health condition, it's time for all of us to step up and change the conversation. Just because someone's struggle isn't obvious on the outside doesn't mean they aren't hurting on the inside. We need to see the person, not the condition. Join with me, pledge to be stigma-free.
It's time for the Mental Health Minute with Marla and Dave.
Many people believe there is nothing that they can do for a person with a mental health problem. In fact, according to mentalhealth.gov, friends and loved ones can make a big difference.
Only 44% of adults with diagnosable mental health problems and less than 20% of children and adolescents receive treatment. Friends and family can be important influences to help someone get the treatment and the services that they need by
1, reaching out and letting them know you are available to help. 2, helping them access mental health services. 3, learning and sharing the facts about mental health, especially if you hear something that they might be feeling that isn't necessarily true. Treating them with respect, just as you would anyone else. That's a big one. Also, refusing to define them by their diagnosis or using labels such as crazy.
If you or someone that you know is experiencing mental health challenges, please, we beg, visit NamiSanFernandoValley.org for help with hospitals and psychiatric units and mental health centers, help with specific mental health issues, including suicide prevention, and specific help for veterans, including a Veterans Crisis Line.
This message is brought to you by Mental Health Mondays with Marla and Dave.
David is a thinker.
I never do anything without thinking about it first.
Marla is a feeler.
I basically wear my personality on my sleeve.
But when Marla and Dave get together, it's like a match dancing with a firecracker.
All right, we're back with DJ. DJ, I want to actually break down something a little bit more specific, because there are times when you're feeling more spiritually connected than others. I should ask, are there times that you feel more spiritually connected than others? Because it seems like today you're really in touch with a spiritual awareness. And And the reason why I say that is because, let's just get rid of the elephant in the room. There are times when we're not really getting along. And, we had a recent incident where that whole empathetic feeling and that you speak about, and that whole spiritual awareness, that's not what you were feeling that day.
It's actually funny that you should say that, because I think it's all about understanding. And to be honest with you, what you're alluding to, the incident, it was all a byproduct of me not being willing enough to understand the nature of the trial. Because, like the Bible even says, my spirit is willing, but my flesh is weak.
So in other words, you did not want to have to go through that type of interaction, but...
No, quite frankly, and this is the God's honest truth, right?
Okay.
Quite frankly, if my spirit is willing, but my flesh is weak, I struggle with the temptation of actually inability. I struggle with the temptation of my personal inability to accept and embrace anything that the Creator throws my way.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Since Dad exposed the elephant, let me ask you this, because this is something that I actually want to know, and I think everybody else probably would want to know. When you move through these particular episodes, do you forget or do you remember what happened?
I remember everything that happens. However, what actually happens is this: when I'm tapped in to the source that is the Creator, Let's just call him the creator.
Okay,
everybody
God.
doesn't agree with that.
So you can say God. That's fine. That's
Okay.
your
So
source.
when I'm tapped into the source that is the creator, well, my forgiveness is everlasting. The same way that love starts with forgiveness. So at the end of the day, if my forgiveness is everlasting, even if I slip up, I'll have the ability to forgive myself. And then if somebody else slips up in my presence, I will have the ability to forgive their mishaps. Because quite frankly, everything here, and this is the God's honest truth, right? Everything here is about forgiveness. Because nobody's perfect, so what else is there to do other than forgive?
So when you come through an episode where, like, there's been a couple times between the three of us that there's been violence, whether it's conscious or unconscious, and so do you forget? Do you just say, never mind, clean the slate, go forward, I'm good?
So when I have problems embracing anybody's nature, because that's what we're all struggling with. We're struggling with nature, human nature itself.
Yep.
So if we're all dealing with each other's natures, which is all encompassing, if I have the inability to forgive somebody's nature, I will therefore do exactly what I just warned all of us about, and I will be intolerant.
Got it.
And it starts with desensitization of this level of intolerance. If I'm desensitized to being intolerant, well, quite frankly, over time, I will hate my life because I will not be tolerant of my personal mishaps. And at the same time, over time, I will, how do I put this? Yeah, I'm sorry. Over time, I will be hateful and spiteful of others' mishaps because it starts within. And if I'm intolerant of myself and my own mistakes, I will actually be, therefore, inevitably be intolerant of somebody else.
Right. So that's a question, and someone else here is saying that her son clearly has some of the same incidents, and he doesn't remember at all. So people are asking because that's something that we're curious about. Like, you know, when you I've experienced the fact that you actually at times, I call it, you know, you're gifted in the way that you I think you access more of your brain. I'm just going to keep it all the way real. I think you access more of your brain, which is more of a talent than it is a detriment than the rest of us. But at the same time, I'm limited. So as your mother, I'm limited because I'm not an emotional amphibian. You are. So you get to go into other places that I'm never going to access. So when you do that selfishly, I want you with us. I love the hell out of you. So for me, I'm asking what everybody else is asking to try and understand it, not to judge you and not to criticize you.
Yeah.
But
what exactly are we referring to that we're supposed to be understanding?
Well, let me just say this, Marla, and just not to interrupt, but let me interrupt. One of the things that I hear DJ saying is that the first thing that he has to do is sort of give himself some grace and give himself some forgiveness.
That is absolutely
because
correct.
He's not going to get everything correct all the time. None of us do, especially someone dealing with, from what we like to say, a brain difference, what the world of psychiatry might say a mental illness, or what terms a trial. And so no matter the semantic, a lot of things have to be taken into account, and they're going to be ups and downs.
Dave, you're going to have to hold that thought right there, sir, because it's time for us to go to a break. And when we come back, we're going to have more with your comments. And with DJ. We'll be back on Mental Health Mondays. Stay tuned.
All right, the fun music. You know what that means. You hear it in the background. And there we have our poll dancer, because it's time for the poll question. And on the mental health, the poll question break, excuse me, we have a poll dancer with no poll. The irony never stops. Last week, we asked the question, what is the average delay between the onset of mental illness symptoms and the usual time that someone might get treatment?
And
Your options were what, Marla?
We didn't. Yes, the answer was given to us actually from our guest before, which we mentioned. And so,
what are the options?
The options were 1.5 years, 5 years, and 11 years.
DJ, what do you think?
So what's the question again?
What is the average delay between what is the average delay between onset of mental illness symptoms and treatment? 1.5 years, 5 years, and 11 years. What's the delay between your first symptom and then being diagnosed and treated?
And what are the options again?
1.5 years, 5 years, 11 years.
Or 11 years.
I'd say 5 years.
Well, sadly to say,
we wish that it was quicker.
It's
but it's
11 years on average that people start to have symptoms and they don't feel that they need to get to the doctor. So things kind of get worse until they finally get to the doctor. The poll question, and hopefully because of shows like this and other efforts, the war to erase the stigma of mental illness, we can get that time frame much shorter. The poll question for next week, Marla, what is it?
Which of these conditions are most likely to develop?
Are you most likely to develop?
Which of these conditions are you most likely to develop? Excuse me. A, diabetes. B, cancer of any kind. C, mental illness. Or D, heart disease.
Heart disease, most definitely.
All right. So that's DJ's answer. You're going to find out the answer when we find out the answer and when we look at all of your answers, because you're going to pop over to our social media, any of the Mental Health Mondays, all of our pages, and you will find the poll question.
You will do it.
You will vote. You will vote, and your voices will be heard, and your answers will be shared.
Make sure you go by Love and Beyond Reason website and NAMI San Fernando Valley's website and donate to Mental Health Mondays. Back to the show.
Marla, Dave.
All right, so DJ, we were just saying that, and I agree with you, that it starts with, first of all, not being so hard on yourself. That's the first thing, because a lot of times, and D, you can speak to this as well, some of those first breaks, we call them, when you start to first enter the trial, as you like to call it, or what we say is brain difference, they're triggered by very stressful situations.
Right.
That's what the science proves.
Oh, yeah,
and
most
so,
definitely.
And so you want to speak to that?
Yeah, so now I want to get scientific because...
No. Oh, yeah, I'm just kidding.
Cancer itself starts with a problematic heart due to the fact that we all are pumping out blood throughout our bodies. Yes, I'm saying. That is only the byproduct of a properly functioning heart. So if you have cancer anywhere in your body, it's only the byproduct of your heart being infected and in turn infecting the rest of your body.
Well, again, so here's my thing. I want to let everybody know that
he is not a doctor, and these things
I
that
didn't
he's
say
saying
any of
are
those
not
things.
not
But what I am saying is that everyone has their own opinions, and we don't.
And that's not necessarily called heart disease, to be honest with you.
I know, but what we have to be responsible, though, honestly, and I love you, but we have to say that even though that these are things that this, and I don't even doubt what you've been given, but we have to tell people who are looking for cancer cures possibly that you're
most
right.
definitely.
So D, I want to get a little bit more practical. How do you mind if we say what your diagnosis is, or would you rather
ahead,
not?
man, say it.
Why don't you say what it is?
So it's bipolar 1 schizoaffective.
Yes, bipolar 1 with schizoaffective disorder. Now, what I want to get down, when I say I want to talk practically about it, what are some of the things that when you're dealing with this, because you have what we call the network, and so that you hear voices that people around you can't necessarily hear.
Are they as loud as we are?
No, they're only as loud as I allow them to be.
So do they ever go away?
I cannot hear a thing right now.
Which is good.
Oh, so then I need to sleep in your room and talk to you all night.
But if you tap in, you can actually tap in.
Are you serious?
Tapping in is extremely obnoxious. However, you get to tap into a whole nother dimension or realm or demographic rather of beings that might need to actually hear what you actually bring to
Okay,
the
so do
table.
you create these voices, or do the voices find you?
The voices find me, but they're always available because everybody wants a turn to get the chance to talk to somebody like myself.
Well, okay, so again, as I was getting to the question that I was asking, which really was
This is how we fight at home.
Marla's
Who's the favorite parent?
Marla's having
Who gets
a,
to talk first? Me.
a thing today, and we will forgive her for that because our son has told us that we need to be forgiving, empathetic, and give each other
Thank
a little
you, D.
grace.
Thank you, DJ.
So we will give Marla some grace. But the question that I was going to ask, what are some of the things socially that you find hard to do when you're dealing with the voices that you hear?
Socially, it's actually ironic that you should say that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because socially speaking, I would need to be present for every waking moment of every single solitary, request in order to do the job that God has bestowed upon me correctly.
So it's kind of
So
like
I
God
need
Almighty?
to be fully present. Exactly.
Like
I need to be fully present. So if I'm not fully present, you understand, everything is astray because it's all about multitasking is all about unison. So if I'm looking at everything like a separate task, I will be a horrible multitasker.
So
however,
again, practically speaking,
let me finish.
Okay.
Let me finish. However, if I'm looking at everything like a process, a unified process, it makes everything so much easier to actually deal with.
So to kind of deconstruct what you're saying, D, when I'm talking about specifically, is it difficult to have conversations with other people when you're having another conversation potentially that other people can't hear? Is it difficult to, say, interact socially? That's kind of what I was trying to ask. Because when you say multitasking, are you talking about the task of dealing with the present, with the people like with us in the house, as well as shutting off the voices or deciding which one of those that you give attention to? Is that what you're talking about?
Exactly. Like I said, both of those things you need to tap into your focus in order to get done. So if we're abusing our focus, it'll be extremely difficult to tap into our focus itself in order to handle any task. And that's all life is about. It's a matter of being, how do I put this? Life is all about being equipped and at the same exact time being aware that our task itself is achievable.
All right, hold that thought right there, D. Man, we have so much more to talk about. We're glad you're going to stick with us for 2 episodes. When we come back, I have a couple questions I want you to answer, and I'll tell you what they are when we return. We'll be right back.
Yeah.
Bad.
Worthless.
Don't trust them. They'll hurt you. You're worthless.
It's pointless.
When the pain of schizophrenia meets hope, everything can change. Help someone who is struggling by supporting the National Alliance on Mental Illness and be a part of the NAMI effect. Hope starts with you.
It's raw, real, and unfiltered.
Go ahead, Marla.
D, again, I say I appreciate
What's
you. I appreciate you so much. Love you. I can never tell you enough how much I love you. But the bottom line is we'll be back. And when we come back in episode 2, there's 2 questions you must answer for me. You're not going to answer them right now, but I'm going to throw them out here.
Go ahead, hit me.
Do you want the voices to stop? And at what point should we be afraid of what you're being told? Now that's what you want to ruminate on, and we're gonna.
Yeah, most definitely.
Okay, hold on. So episode
But
2 is
no,
because we got
can't
2
go into it
minutes.
because the show's over.
You got you
Hold that fire.
hold on to it, baby. Hold on to it, baby. Hold that mask. Hold that mask.
So D, if I can say, what are your in 10 seconds or less? I know that's
ahead.
hard for you.
No,
You're very verbose.
No. Go ahead.
What is your message to those that might be struggling with similar situation as yours?
It's a trial. It's a trial.
Is there hope at the end of the trial? Is there ability
keep
to
going?
make it?
It's a trial that God delivers everybody from.
Okay. So
Awesome.
so you have hope. All right, so good. So listen, this is Mental Health Mondays. This is our son with one of the most transparent conversations I think you probably will ever hear. That is connected and just, DJ is DJ, and we love him for that, and we are super glad that he's willing to share. Respect him dearly. Smart as all get out, and we got so much more to talk about in episode 2. So we ask you to come back next week and hear episode 2 with DJ. Let's get him to answer those 2 questions and hear what he's got going on creatively. We'll be back with more DJ.
See you next week.
Bye.